Hello, dear friends. Here we are. This is The Medium's Harvest by Emmanuel, a book psychographed by the medium Xavier. In 1960, in 19 meetings in their Spiritist group, and then published in 1961 as a tribute to the centennial of the publication of the Medium's book by Allan Kardec. The Medium's book by Allan Kardec is certainly the manual for mediums and evokers, as Kardec established. And Spiritism is not dogmatic. On the contrary, it's quite a very rational faith, built solidly in observation, research, and true logics and reasoning. As Kardec said, we reason our faith to really make it unshakable. Many people say, I believe, but it's not enough to believe. We are here to actually know. There is a huge difference between believing and knowing. Believing is a step, but knowing is the foundation of it all. And these are not my words, but the words of the spirits, which make a lot of sense to us. Today we're studying chapter 79, Intuition. Many people claim, I'm not a medium, but I don't feel anything, but I don't hear anything, I don't see anything. Well, there are many types of mediumship. And there is what we call intuition. In the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, there is a specific item, 180, which is part of a chapter on writing or psychographic mediums, chapter 15. Kardec talks about the mediums, mechanical mediums, intuitive mediums, semi-mechanical mediums, inspired mediums, prescient mediums. It's an opportunity for us to study. Of course, we need to study. That's the difference, one of the main differences between the framework of Spiritism regarding mediumship and others. We understand that the more we study, the more we understand about the mechanisms of mediumship, the better we use it for higher purposes. So today it's about intuition. Let's read what Kardec found out. Intuitive mediums, the Medium's book, item 180. Let's not forget, the Medium's book is divided in 32 chapters, 350 items. And why did Kardec design the book, structured it in items? Because he was an educator. And as an educator, he selected the blocks of ideas we should pay attention to. So that's a good exercise for those. If you want to study the Medium's book, a good exercise is read the items and summarize them. Get the main idea of them and write it down. Because then we will understand why each item was composed in that way. It's for a specific purpose. And this item 180 contains 3 paragraphs and the explanation on intuition, intuitive mediums. The transmission of a spirit's thought may also occur by means of the medium's own spirit, or rather his or her soul, since we use that term for the spirit while incarnated. In this case, the communicating spirit does not act directly upon the hand in order to make it right, for it neither holds it nor guides it, but acts upon the soul with which it identifies itself. Then, under this impulsion, the medium's soul guides the hand, which in turn guides the pencil. Here we must note an important fact. The communicating spirit does not replace the medium's soul, because it could not dislodge it from the body. Rather, it dominates it apart from the medium's will and impresses its own will on it. Consequently, the soul's role is not completely passive. It receives the spirit's thought and transmits it. In this situation, the medium is conscious of what is being written, although it is not a reflection of his or her own thought. This type of person is called an intuitive medium. I'm going to stop here because we have enough elements to discuss this. Many people, there is a myth in mediumship. If I'm really a true good medium, the spirits operate through me, and I have no consciousness of it. That's not how we measure good mediumship. When Kardec asked the spirits, what is a good medium? The answer was the one who is easy on the hands of the good spirits. Easy, not in the sense of being conscious or not, but being open to their counsels. So if a higher spirit is saying, can you please help this person? And I say, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not being easy on the hands of the good spirits. I'm just giving you one explanation of it. But awareness of it, it does not define good mediumship. Okay? So, intuitive mediums, they are aware of what is being transmitted through them. Not necessarily this will define the process. So, what does Emmanuel has to add in that regard? Why is it important for us to pay attention to intuition? Why? Often we disregard it. Often we think it's something that is beautiful, but I'm not so sure it's happened to me or through me. Let's see. Chapter 79. Let's call the teacher Emmanuel to explain to us intuition. A meeting on October 28, 1960. Based on this item, 180 of the Medium's book. Whenever you set yourself to the task of serving mediumship, you are someone interpreting someone close to someone else. As a vessel in which the message of infinite love is conveyed to earth walkers, let compassion be in your soul the retainer of the divine help. Contemplate the sufferers who seek you, no matter how disoriented, in the category of brothers who bring in their own pain, the signal of the height they could not reach. In the face of all those whom the world reproaches, think of the supreme effort they have made to be good without being able to attain the ideal with which they intended. Before the comrades who are in serious misdemeanors, meditate on the extreme struggle they have sustained with themselves as they are thrown into delinquency and towards those who plunge into the current of vice. Imagine yourself on the edge of the traps in which they have fallen without noticing. Meeting a woman who seems compatible to you, reflect on the long nights of distress she has gone through, suffering in moral resistance not to fall into misfortune. Surprising the crony who seems cruel to you, imagine the maternal bosom who cherished him between prayers and tears, supposing to breastfeed the mouth of an angel. If the problems of others come up obscure and reprehensible, ask for the sympathy, for sympathy to help you solve them, because you do not really know the beginning, and you do not know what shadow forces hide behind those who fall covered of suffering. Whomever the needy, be merciful. And if the same needy afflicts and injures you, have even more compassion. Do not label anyone so excessively guilty that they do not deserve support and understanding, remembering that the goodness of God each morning draws out of the victorious dawn from the midnight darkness. Intuition is thought to thought, and only the thought of compassion can translate faithfully the thought of the light. Why is Emmanuel saying that? Because often we think of mediumship as something that is like mechanical. Somebody comes, delivers a message, almost like a spiritual post office that counts on our help, right? It's a heart-to-heart process. If we are being mediums, good mediums, the ones that are easy in the hands of the higher spirits, Spiritism gives a new perspective to mediumship. It not only explains the process, but brings the ethical, moral component to it. We no longer talk about mediumship as the mechanical fact of transmitting thought to thought and delivering messages. No. Mediumship, according to Spiritism, is a heart-to-heart approach. We help because we understand that we are here to repair mistakes of the past, right? That we are here to help one another. So we no longer feel that mediumship is something that we do without our ethical, moral involvement. That's why he says here, if you want to serve through mediumship, you are someone who is interpreting someone close to someone. You're networking. Why? For the general good. And he says, as a vessel, so he gives us an image, a vessel in which the message of infinite love is conveyed to earthly walkers. Let compassion be in your soul, the retainer of the divine help. It's unbelievable, because he gets that very item that we read in the Medium's book 180, and talking about intuition, and he gives it the Christ-conscious color. It's impossible to see mediumship in a different way. It needs to be self-sacrificing. You think it was easy for Chico Xavier to bring all those books? No. I'll give you an example. There's a book titled Liberation by André Luiz. And that book, which we recommend to all of you, Liberation is a beautiful book that really brings liberation. And you know why? Because there we learn about the strategies of the forces of darkness on the earth. And of all André Luiz's books written through Chico Xavier's mediumship, that one in particular was tricky. And I'll tell you why, right, Steve McPherson? Is a great book, and you're right. But that book was so tricky in the sense of disclosing the strategies of the bad spirits, that when Chico Xavier finished the psychography of it, he was walking in the street between his home and his work, when he saw a huge group of discarnate entities. And they were not happy. They have sticks and stones in their hands. And they were furious with Chico Xavier. They were threatening him. And then Chico asked, Emmanuel, what is this all about? And Emmanuel explained, Chico, that book discloses strategies that the forces of darkness use to imprison incarnate and discarnate beings in lower passions, in fields of materialism. And now that we've disclosed it, they are upset, because those who read it will truly be more liberated. Right, Steve? He's saying, I got really emotional at the end of the book Liberation. So thank you, Steve, because he's encouraging you to go read it. Read it. It's beautiful, 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 and truly liberating. Often we suffer without knowing why we're suffering. The deep reasons. There are strategies, we have to be careful. And I'm going to kindly share with you one strategy that has been happening on the earth, and it's important for all to know. Have you heard of the video game Call of Duty? If you have a child, you may have probably heard of it. I've come across, as a psychologist, many cases of families who are distraught by the changes caused by the interaction between their children and that video game. In the mediumistic meeting, we've come to know that that video game comes from the very low, the lowest, the darkest forces of the earth. The ones that create wars on the earth. And all those who play that video game are being manipulated spiritually by those forces without noticing. So be careful. Junk spiritual food exists, and that is more than a junk. It's truly poisonous. So I'm just giving to you examples of how important it is for us to pay attention on these strategies. And that's one more reason why we should read the book Liberation by Andrea Lewis. So why we're saying this? Because the medium, as Emmanuel is saying, becomes a vessel of this infinite love that comes. But it only comes through us if we have an open heart of compassion. Okay? Yes, so she's saying, I have this book here, but I didn't read it yet. There you go. Boom. Beautiful. Go for it. You're gonna love it, so. And give us a feedback, okay? And Livia Moraes saying, it's very difficult to help people who are in this path. I agree with you. It's very hard. We have to pray a lot, because they are truly imprisoned without noticing. They are being manipulated. The best way to manipulate is thought. When Allan Kardec asked the spirits, and it's published in the Spirit's book, part 3, when he talks about the law of freedom, which is a much appreciated virtue in humanity, especially in the United States. Freedom. And when we talk about freedom, Kardec asked, when is the spirit absolutely free? And the answer of the spirits, in their thought. So, if you want to imprison somebody, what would you do? Imprison their thinking process. How do we do it? Manipulating them through circumstances like this, video games. So we need to be very careful. Reading books such as Liberation can be very liberating. No wonder the book has the title. Right, Rafael? Yeah, the happy end of the book gives the hope we need to keep up the good work. You're right, Rafael. Good seeing you here. And Raquel Bakesh is saying, I just bought the book, going to read it. Read it. And don't stop, because it's beautiful. The beauty of it all is to show how the good spirits never give up helping us. And they disclose to us so we know how it works in our lives. So compassion is the retainer of the divine help. Okay, therapeutic question for us. How is our compassion doing? Huh? Are we being compassionate? Yes. Jesus said we need to say yes, yes, no, no. But that doesn't exclude compassion. It's like a good parent. I'm going to tell my daughter, my son, look, right now, no longer playing. We need to go to sleep. But I would like to da-da-da-da-da. No, not now. Remember, there's time for everything. Right now, the sun went down, telling us time to go to sleep. For children, right? But we understand their willingness to keep playing. And that's where compassion comes in. We look at them and say, we're not going to look at them and say, but you're not obedient. You have no discipline. Or you're going to spank. Why do you want to play all along? It doesn't want to stop. That is lack of compassion. When we're violent, when we're aggressive. But we're going to say, not now. There's time for everything. So that balance between loving discipline and compassion is what Emmanuel is talking about. We're going to see people of all walks of life, and he gives us examples. People who are confused, right? And what do? We help them. We contemplate them and help them out. Because pain may have created obstacles for them to keep on going. We don't know people's lives. Like I saw a beautiful post, I think by Ana Oliveira, right, from Alabama, on a mother who was pregnant, almost close to her due date, suffering domestic abuse, going to shelters. She reached the maximum days in the shelter, so she was in the streets, and an officer found her laying down on the floor, sleeping with her toddler on top of her, expecting another child. He took her to a room in a motel and let the international community know through Facebook or sort of thing, and people donated stuff. A week later, the baby was born, and the officer kept helping, and the community worldwide kept helping as well. So if I look at her and think, oh, maybe she's an impossible person, maybe she's this, that, and the other, it doesn't matter. That judgment, it doesn't pertain. We need to help. It's time to help. He says, sometimes people make mistakes. And what are we going to do? Help. Because it could be us. It could be somebody who is a criminal. But think about the mother of that person who fed that baby thinking that baby was going. I always think about this. When I see adults misbehaving, let's say this way, I think of their mothers or when they were kids and the hope was present. What happened between then and now? Something must have happened. If there was true love and a good education, they wouldn't have. And I'm not judging, because I know parents, we feel a lot of guilt for nothing sometimes. But I'm saying sometimes in the social environment, sometimes the family does great works, But then the past tendencies and the streets and the schools are failing us big time. So all these environments that are corrupted. I'm not saying the person is a victim either, but it's an equation in social life. Life in society brings us elements that help us explain why the end result may not be truly beautiful. So what do? If the problems of others come up, says Emmanuel, obscure and reprehensible, what should you do? Like the homeless who asks for money. They come and I'm like scratching my head. What's happening to this person? Why are they asking me for money? Something is obscure, maybe even reprehensible. And then Emmanuel says, you see the beauty of Emmanuel? He's so practical. He gives us the tool. He says, ask for sympathy. We would say, empathy. To help solve them. Because you do not really know the beginning, and you do not know what dark forces hide behind those who fall covered by suffering. I don't know. Who am I? So he says, you don't understand? Feel some sympathy for that person. And be empathetic. It can be us in the future. Only God knows. I don't know. Adilson is saying, a friend of us just found a Brazilian guy living in the streets. She put him in a hotel for 1 week, called his family in Brazil, bought the airplane ticket and sent him back to Brazil to his family. His father, very simple man, left such a beautiful voice message thanking her and all the ones who helped his son. What a joy. Wow. What a beautiful story, Adilson. Thank you for sharing. You see, we don't know. And for us spiritists, there is another element that we know. There's obsession, my friends. There's self-obsession, and there is obsession. So, when you go to the Old Testament, you see like King David going through a whole lot of obsession, subjugating him, making him behave in strange ways. So who are we to simply say, that's never gonna happen to me? We don't know. So compassion is everything. What is compassion? Is to put in common our heart. To put our heart in common with that person. That's why he's saying, connect heart to heart. And that's when our intuition is gonna flow. Our intuition is gonna flow. That's why he brings the last part of this message. This message is divided in 3 blocks. The third block says, have more compassion. Even if they hurt you. I know friends who go serve the homeless or others, and they're upset because they don't give them gratitude and a smiling face. And I know even Brazilian friends who come to me and say, but in Brazil, it's much easier. People are grateful even if they are poor. It's funny because I find myself like, are we feeding the homeless or are we feeding our egos? I'm going to ask again. Are we feeding the homeless or feeding our egos? Because if I go there expecting to be caressed in my ego, saying, oh, I love you, thank you so much for bringing me soup, for bringing me clothes, etc., then we're not nourishing anybody. We're just feeding our own ego. So it's good when you go to places. I've seen many places like this in Baltimore. How many places we went there and people were really gloomy, dark. You would give them everything and they would keep still grumpy. And some friends would look at me like, Vanessa, it's not worthwhile. They're not grateful. I said, great. That's where we should keep going. To make them smile. Not to thank her, but to get them out of that gloominess. Right? Where is the child inside of them? Yes. You know, psychologically, that's a tip. When we connect to the feelings, it's heart to heart. Remember when we talk about the parent inside of us? The adult and the child. The parent is critical. It can be nurturing, but it can be critical. And sometimes bring a lot of criticism. Forget about that. Say to the critical parent, go to sleep. We're going to help people. And bring your child. Bring your child to the services, to your interactions with people. But the healthy child, not the needy one, because we have that needy child inside of us. Bring the healthy child. Which one? The one, as Jesus said, that trusts, that is joyful, that is giving. You know, when children are healthy, they're joyful. They have a lot of energy and they give of themselves. They're not needy. When they're cranky, grumpy, something is missing. Maybe food, maybe sleep, maybe they're sick. Adults are just the same. The body size is different, but the emotional needs are the same. So I think Emmanuel is telling us, bring your healthy child to play a role and to interact with those in need with a joyful heart. No wonder Jesus said, joy, courage, and hope. In a way, Jesus was disclosing to us the healthy part of our psyche, which is the joyful child, the courageous adult, and the hopeful parent inside of us. When we align and balance those parts of our psyche inside of us, we become a more healthy individual in our interactions. And then we allow this beautiful infinite love to flow through us more easily. We become a more transparent vessel of this beautiful infinite love. Right? Shall we? And our dear Adilson is saying, a spirit homeless came to the mediumistic meeting this week and said something so touching. I prefer to stay outside in the cold and be invisible than be inside any place being invisible. Thought for our thoughts. Thank you, Adilson, for sharing this. So friends, let us balance that part of us, the inner parent with hope, the inner adult with courage to do what we need to do, and the healthy child with joy, and bring that compassion through. And in doing so, intuition, as Emmanuel says, only the thought of compassion can translate faithfully the thought of the light. Do we understand what he meant? If intuition is this infinite love coming through us, even if we're aware, he says, only when we're compassionate, only when we are on the same grounds, heart to heart with discarnates and incarnates, then we'll be able to be faithful in being interpreters of the light. Got the secret? Got the recipe? Right, Rihanna? Rihanna is saying that is a very important question to ask ourselves all the time. Why am I doing this? To remain ourselves, to be compassionate and loving always. Exactly. Thank you, Deborah. So, thank you, Deborah, for being here. Before we wrap up, let's say hi to the community. For those who are listening to us or watching to us on demand, A big hug to you. Nina Dewey is here. Nina, in the network Spiritism around the world, there was somebody today asking about people in your area, and we recommended you. So we hope they connect with you and do something, okay? Rihanna is here. Deborah Tessarolo, how are you? Mary Lee Lopes, how are you, Mary Lee? And Manny Pereira, amazing having you here. Yara, beautiful mother. Fred Gouveia, big hug to you, Yara. Look forward to seeing you in person someday. Adilson, Laura Colli, Laura, we need to connect, right? I haven't forgotten. My friend Steve McPherson, who's doing beautiful vlogs on Spiritism. Connect to the vlogs. Hopefully soon at Kardec Radio. Rafael Medeiros, good to have you here. Raquel Bakeshi. Lívia Moraes, how are you? Julie, in beautiful Australia. Teaching your child, I saw today quickly. I confess to you guys, I don't have much time to go all through the messages on Facebook, but sometimes I see things here and there. I learn a lot, and today I saw Julija teaching her child about energy fields, and beautiful, Julija, beautiful. So my friend and her beautiful daughter, Eliza Geisel Rodrigues, how are you? Teresa Castro, how are you, Teresa? My friend Leia Severo on the road. Dona Verducci, how are you? Nora Brasil, Patricia Guiri Cardozo, doing beautiful clips to let people know how to listen to Kardec Radio 24/7 and the podcasts. Angelita, how are you? Anna from Alabama. How are you? Ceissa, beautiful Ceissa. My sister Luciana Licoliello, how are you? Perla Bronze, how are you? My eternal friend John Da Rosa. Teresa Captapano is here with us. Sunshine, beautiful Sunshine, how are you? Karina Lisse, making miracles at Kardec Radio. Right? Yes, well, Kardec Radio's team is expanding. A lot of work's being done, right? Thank you. Alexandra is here, and I need to talk. Ay, Alexandra, right? Sorry for the delay. And Eliza says she's almost always on demand, but luckily she's been able to join these days. Thank you. But you know, for those who are on demand, a big hug to you. A big hug. Feel the connection, because this is serving purposes to unimaginable ways. For us today, the homework is to verify where's our compassion. We need to work on this. How do we work on it? To think. It could be us. We don't understand the math of life, the many factors that enter the equation and bring results that sometimes are so unexpected and misunderstood. But keep the firmness inside. Yes, yes, no, no. And invest on sacrificing your life to bring the goodness, not only to this generation, but generations to come. Right, Donna Verducci? Yes. And he says, you want to be good at intuition? Open the heart. Open the heart. Open the heart to feel with people. Diminish the critical parent inside of us and open the joy of living. Shall we? That's a good mantra for us, a good affirmation. 'Cause I am light, and I am peace, and I am joy of living. And sing it to others. Sing it to others in your mind and in your heart. Right? It's also in Portuguese. Você é luz, você é paz, você é a alegria de viver. 'Cause you are light, and you are love, and you are joy of living. Sing it to people in your way. That's gonna open our hearts to feel the joy of living and emanate it, so we can become better vessels of this light of God, the infinite love that embraces us. Big hug to you too, Grazi, and all of you. Tomorrow, when we come back, God willing, chapter 80, Mamma Mia, chapter 80, 80, oh, can you believe it? If I read the title to you, you won't believe it. It talks about hope. Who needs hope? Raise your hands. Okay, he says, the earth already has enormous legions to work for evil. Be the word that brings comfort and help. You want more? Come back, because tomorrow is the night of hope. Let us expand our hope and bring more balance to our psyche, to our hearts, to our lives. A big hug to you, friends, and until tomorrow.